Hospital. Today is Wednesday, May 1st, and we're here to keep all of you, our patients, families, neighbors, and friends in the know and up to date on the latest health news in our community. I'm Rachel Lott, Chief Communications Officer, and I am joined as always by
JJ Hodshire, President, Chief Executive Officer.
And it's been a little while since we've had a Facebook Live.
It's been a hot minute.
We've had some last minute scheduling changes. We've had some illness, some travel, several different things. So we're excited to be back in the studio today.
We were on the road a few weeks ago, speaking in Missouri. And great group of professionals there. Had a really good time, but it's great to be back in the studio.
Yes, it is. And we have a special guest with us.
We have one of my favorite people from a health system, honestly.
Thank you.
Ann Kujawa has been a friend of mine for, has it been a decade?
At least.
I mean, we met when actually probably even longer than that. We had a chance to meet years and years ago talking about synergies and collaborations and relationships that our hospitals could engage in. And Ann is actually Vice President of ProMedica Cancer Institute. And Ann, I think you've had a variety of titles since the last 15 years, always in senior leadership, and you'll know why once we get talking to her. Her background is diverse. She has a wealth of information, and really the sweet spot that she has in our hospital is for our oncology cancer services, where we've been working with her now on this project 2 years. 2 years, Ann.
Yes.
It's hard to believe.
It is.
Now, I did ask Ann early on if we could get this done in 3 months, 2 years ago. And then there's that whole COVID thing that interrupted us and other issues that we had as we kind of ramped up some things post-COVID. This has been really one of the things that I've wanted to do throughout my presidency, which is really to have an oncology presence here at Hillsdale. And we've done it. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So Ann, for your first time in our studio on Facebook Live, welcome. It's great to have you.
Thank you so much.
It's going to be fun.
Yes, it is fun. You definitely put me at ease. And I'm really
good. No,
excited
it's great
to be here.
Yes.
It's hard to believe that it's been a decade, but it's so nice to be able to see something like this become a true reality.
It is.
We've talked about collaboration for a very long time. We've really put it into place with this initiative.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm an RN by training, and exceptional cancer care close to home has always been the passion and the philosophy of ProMedica Cancer Institute.
It sure has. Yeah.
And so by us being able to work together in this collaboration and develop it into what it is truly, I think, an amazing accomplishment.
It is. And can you talk a little bit, I mean, obviously you represent, we're small rural health. You represent a system. And so do you want to talk a little bit about, your ProMedica in general? Because you have a hospital not too far from here.
That's
correct. A couple of them, actually. If you want to give any, background in terms of ProMedica, folks may not know what it is.
Sure.
And, how long it's been existing and those things.
So ProMedica is a health system that has been in place for a number of years. And its philosophy is your health, our mission.
Yep.
And one of the areas it is a center of excellence in many, many areas.
Yeah.
And it actually
not just
covers,
cancer. I mean, you've got
we have a number of institutes.
You have Heart Institute. I visited ortho. Are you still doing ortho?
Still have ortho, very strong. Vascular, neuro. We have a very strong women's services. Yeah. Our surgical program continues to grow and expand.
And I would say you're the tertiary center for Central Ohio. I mean, wouldn't you agree? I mean, you're pretty much the place where folks are going from the community hospitals to you in Ohio.
Yes. Yeah. We have we're a number one trauma center that we have, and a number of our sites are also trauma certified as well. Yeah. So it's very excited to represent the health system and also to represent oncology. From an oncology perspective, I can tell you that, across the 27 counties, we have 10 centers that provide medical oncology, and we have 5 centers that provide radiation oncology, and we have 2 dedicated inpatient units as well.
It's amazing.
We have a very strong list of board certified providers, as well as certified oncology nurses, and a whole host of other support services, such as a dedicated pharmacist. We have healing care, we have social work, we have genetic testing, we have dedicated dietitians, we have some transportation support. we really believe in that exceptional cancer care close to home with the patient at the center.
Right.
And all of the support services having and embracing that patient and helping them on their cancer journey.
Yeah.
Because it's not just a journey of one, it is a journey for a family.
It sure is.
And those that are close to that
Life-changing journey.
Absolutely.
One of the things I've always appreciated about you, Ann, is, when we talk about working with big systems, I often say that we're an independent hospital, but we're interdependent. And our interdependence is with organizations like yours. And I've never once felt the fear of the big system with you, and the because it does come with a certain connotation to rural health, of getting, in the mix of a big health system. In all the applications and all the times we've ever worked, you've erased all those thoughts, fears, anxieties, and it's really just great to work with you. And for Ann's bosses who are listening, let me tell you, she's kicking it. Okay, this is someone who comes to rural communities like ours without the threat of, we're taking over, the system. It's how can we work together in collaboration to get these services to your patients. And that's what I appreciate most about Ann, is it's always been about the patient. Even at times when I'm like, well, we want to do it for this reason, Ann always comes centered back. Probably her RN degree and background, I'm sure, has a lot to do with it. But it's all about how we're going to serve the patient best in Hillsdale County and in the other counties in which they serve. So I just want to thank you for that. It's been great to work with you, but we can eliminate the fear of the system with you. And
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I've always said it takes a village. It's taken a village of team members to create this collaboration between Hillsdale and ProMedica.
Yeah.
And I will say that, as I sit here representing ProMedica, my bosses, the executive and chiefs that represent ProMedica at the highest level are very supportive of this partnership, this collaboration. I think it's extremely important that we continue to move forward in how we can support the patients and support those services that are very much close to home.
A lot of excitement. I was at the MHA meeting and I served with Dr. Yarrow, president of ProMedica at your Adrian site. And now it's not called Adrian anymore.
It's Charles Virginia Hickman Hospital.
Okay.
Yes.
And so she obviously knew about the partnership because we had actually had dinner with her that night 2 years ago.
Yes.
And she was excited at our last meeting, and I was, and I'm like, we're getting patients through. At that time, I think we'd had 1 or 2 patients at our meeting a few weeks ago. So a lot of momentum, a lot of people involved in this process to get it going. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. And on that note, let's define this collaboration for our audience.
Yes.
So we did share some information publicly several weeks ago now. Maybe a month or more ago, about this collaboration. But Ann, can you give that overview for our audience? How are Hillsdale Hospital and ProMedica working together to provide cancer services here in Hillsdale?
So after nearly 2 years of planning, what has developed is a strong collaboration that really allows the patient to be at the center. So when a physician or a provider within the Hillsdale community identifies the need for a patient to receive cancer services, we have the ability for them to connect with a nurse navigator here within Hillsdale. Tammy Evener has been an amazing partner through this process.
And our community knows Tammy. Everybody loves Tammy.
Patients
decades
love
of
her.
experience here,
Yes. Patients love her. The team has embraced her and spoken very highly of her. She's been wonderful in meeting with the team and then also supporting the patients on their journey. So what she then does is she connects with, at this point, it is our individuals at the Charles Virginia Hickman Hospital. And we have a nurse there the nursing director, Rhonda Whitty, has been very involved. She connects with Tammy and she sets up that first patient appointment. She works closely with her clinical team so that we can create what's truly a clinic to clinic visit. They come into Hillsdale, they have a televisit with the provider. We have Tyto technology, which allows the heart, the lungs to be able to be heard by the provider. And very often,
it's amazing technology.
It really is. And very often in that initial visit, the relationship between that physician and patient is just beginning. And it's been a very positive connection. They then determine if, based on the patient's scans and pre-workup, chemotherapy or radiation therapy is an appropriate treatment modality. And then from that point, the patient begins to be scheduled at Charles Virginia Hickman at the hospital for their specific treatment. And then when they go for their treatment, in the case of medical oncology, they will receive some education, then they will receive their treatment. They'll have the opportunity to meet with the physician in person at that point. In the case of radiation, they will go for their simulation, which is where they set the patient up for their treatment. And then from there, treatment planning begins, and then the patient can actually then come for their radiation visits. But the supportive therapies can be done back here at Hillsdale. And so it minimizes the amount of windshield time, which is, while it isn't horribly significant, it can become very tedious if you're needing to do that with any frequency.
And so if you're not feeling well because you're in treatment, that is even more taxing than if you're, in your
absolutely. And those side effects can truly impact the patient. And so we have the ability for the patients to also have virtual or telehealth with our healing care providers so that they can provide guided imagery and some other, even energy therapies that can be provided to support the patients on their journey to help them cope and to help them feel better. I also want to talk a little bit about our genetics program because that is
genetics program is huge.
That is a clinic to clinic opportunity. Again, the patients, the providers can reach out to our genetics team directly, and it really helps identify the patient's risk, because if you identify that you are at high risk, and actually 5 to 10% of cancers do have a hereditary mutation associated with it. If you are at high risk, that may put your family at high risk. And from there, you can identify some prophylactic or preventative strategies. And prevention is really the best step in moving towards cure.
So, my family has been riddled with cancer, and everybody listening has been touched by it at some level. I lost my mother to it, my sister very young to it. And on Nicole's side, you've met Nicole Mayer, cousin of mine, and her mother passed of cancer. And so my father, obviously brother and sister, but, she introduced us to the genetic testing. And it's pretty amazing, I'm going to say the peace of mind of knowing. Because the unknown can weigh on you for the rest of your life. And just, am I at risk? Am I susceptible? And so it was so peace of mind when she shared with us that we could go through those journeys. And my wife, and her mother went through this, and it's really just a comfort to have that type of testing done. And it's remarkable the work that you can do in that realm to sit with a patient and explain how this could be hereditary and how you can empower them through knowledge of, okay, it's awareness. And now we start talking about prevention and all of those things. And it's remarkable the work that you've done at ProMedica to get this set up. And I was most excited about genetics when you started talking about it years ago, and then having it introduced by my family. It's incredible. I would encourage our listeners, if you today, family members have been impacted by cancer, there are options available for you to go through this testing. And I would encourage it. So Ann, let's talk a little bit about that, can we? Can I just sign up one day and say, I want to do genetic testing? So how does that work?
Actually, so what patients do self-refer, but often it is best to have a connection with a provider, because the provider can identify based on your clinical history if you are susceptible to a hereditary cancer. And it's in that kind of realm that you would want to be connected to a genetic counselor. I think everybody has that question, but really there are a number of profiles that can be completed. There are a number of scales that can identify your risk, whether it is breast, whether it is skin. And we really want to make sure that we are seeing you and being able to evaluate your clinical history, because once they connect with you, they do an actual pedigree. And that pedigree is a review of the patient's connections through their family. And from there, they identify the potential risk. From there, they will talk with you and do some very specific education so that you can have and complete a true informed consent if this is something that you want to pursue. If you do have the genetic mutation, then it's something to consider for your family,
Yeah.
especially some of your first degree relatives.
Right.
And then from there, if you are not a carrier, though, that gives you the peace of mind. If you are a carrier, then it allows you to identify potential preventative strategies. And if you are a person with the personal history of cancer, then by identifying that you carry that mutation, you then afford your first degree relatives, your children, to be able to go through that testing as well. And they may or may not want to know. It is a very individualized decision.
You're right. You're right.
And we've seen it on both sides.
Yeah.
But then from there, they can identify those preventative strategies that can give them further peace of mind.
But it's empowerment. I think it's so important.
And it's so important also that you connect with your primary care provider, with your surgeon, because that is how basically your risk or potential can be established and that initial referral can occur.
Right. What's remarkable as we talk through all of this, Ann, is that the beginning of their journey could start right here in their own backyard at Hillsville Hospital.
Absolutely.
That's what's remarkable.
Yes.
It's not going
exciting.
to the big city where, we have an issue of transportation in this community.
Right. Sure.
And we don't have public transportation limited to the city. That's about it. So really access has always been a concern for us in rural. And it's concern throughout the country in rural health. It's just access in general. So now having in a backyard, these type of processes can begin right here at Hillsville.
Absolutely.
It's remarkable.
And telehealth has really taken
It has
off.
opened it up,
And has really given patients an opportunity. I can't speak highly enough about those clinic to clinic visits being an opportunity for patients to connect with a provider and determine their next steps.
That's right.
Right. I think we've already mostly covered how the collaboration came about and the needs that we're working to meet in our community. But is there anything else about that?
Well, I want to talk a little bit about that before Ann does, because when I was in business development, 10, 12 years ago, Ann and I actually had our first interaction because we were running an oncology program, but I was not happy with it or satisfied. So I went to Ann and I said, Ann, you are best in the business in the industry in the tri-state area. I want to form some type of relationship. And we did. We actually did. We co-branded brochures and we called it Concierge Oncology Medicine. And it really just never got off the ground, in part because the departure of the oncologist. And then what happened to rural hospitals like mine is the cost of drugs became so high, and not participating in what's called a 340B program, we were losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in drug costs that we were trying to recover, and we did not have the program specific to 340B. So for us, where we were at that time, we took a step back, and what we started to do is just build a referral relationship with Ann and her team that basically our physicians could refer. Patient's choice, but our physicians could also refer a patient to ProMedica Center for cancer. And so that started it. Okay. Then it kind of died down. And the physicians were sending their patients there, and really all over at times. New physicians come to the community, didn't even know what existed in the tri-state area. And so I felt really this important, I'm not going to say it was a desire to come into the market, because we can't be great at everything, right? And we can only be good at so many things, and we can't be everything to everybody. But I knew that I wanted to enter the market, but I didn't want to enter it alone. And I knew I didn't have the bandwidth to do it alone. I did not want to go out and recruit an oncologist. Again, you can't find them. And so I just called up Ann and sent her an email and said, can we have a discussion? And from that discussion, I basically empowered Nicole Mayer. And I want to give a shout out to her, Mayer Consulting, and Nicole was working in strategy for me at the time here at the hospital, and she continued the relationship with Ann and her team to really build what is today. And so all I want to say, and the point that I want to raise, is this has been a labor of love of mine, but it's been among the top priorities I've had to be able to provide in a community where there's a lack of transportation and services, to provide something in our backyard. As entry level and basic as it is, we don't have a team of oncologists that are here in Hillsdale, but you have access to a team of oncologists. That's what's beautiful about this, is that in being independent, we can be interdependent upon friends like Ann and ProMedica to make that happen. So that was a push.
Yes.
And shout out to all those who've been in the journey, Nicole, and then we transitioned to Randy. Randy Holland has done a phenomenal job for us and really carrying that torch, working with Ann and our team. And the countless times that we were on WebExes and really pulling this off, and all the attorneys. The attorneys are listening out there. No wonder you guys are rich, but all the attorneys that really had to make this happen. So that's from Hillsdale's perspective.
Mhm.
I guess I'm curious to hear from your perspective. Probably times that you've been frustrated with me, Ann, about JJ, let's get this done. But maybe talk about your perspective over the history of Hillsdale and ProMedica.
So, yes, it has been, I agree with you. I think a labor of love is a very good way to describe it. What you explained is very, very true. And I think when we met a year ago, almost 2 years ago in July, I think we both knew that this was something that was going to happen.
Yeah,
it wasn't an if, it was a how and a when.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we wanted to make sure that we were doing it correctly.
Right.
We kept the patient at the center of focus, and that became the source of all decision making. I feel very strongly about that. I know ProMedica feels very strongly about it. And over the last few years, we have really developed a focus on our core business. That core business is surrounding the patient.
Right.
And when we can take that core business and support patients across the system and across our regions, it only makes it that much better.
Right.
I have to say, JJ, you give me far too much credit.
No, I don't.
I
don't.
Because I represent a system that has been supportive of this initiative.
Yeah, true.
Arturo,
But you've been the carrier of
Dr.
that
Bishop,
torch. Yeah.
the whole team has been extremely supportive of
a good team.
Dr. Yarrow of this moving forward.
Absolutely.
And I also represent the team of individuals that are making this happen.
Mhm.
You know, I get to sit here and talk about all the cool stuff.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are taking care of the patients.
Yeah.
I need to share, as you know, we've had 7 referrals so far.
It's incredible.
Everyone is very, very pleased with
they
the
are.
connection.
Yeah.
We've had both medical and radiation oncology referrals. And I think that just has further strengthened the
It has.
partnership
It
that
has.
we see developing. Shout out to the providers who are so engaged. I know they're extremely busy in taking care of cancer patients, but they've welcomed the ability to support this initiative as well. And so it is really a partnership, a true collaboration as a labor of love.
Yes. And it does fit in with, and our audience and our community knows that here at Hillsdale, our mission is to be a guardian of a guardian of, I'm so excited I can't say it, a guardian of exceptional health services for our community. And the way that we're able to do that, knowing that we're a rural hospital, is the interdependence that JJ talked about, where if we can't do it ourselves, we find someone who can and figure out what's the right way to bring that service into our community, even if Hillsdale Hospital is not the provider, is not, employing the physician, whatever that is. And so a lot of our visiting specialists that you're all familiar with, like Dr. Alam, Dr. Loganathan, Dr. Stockall, a lot of those services, that's a similar.
Dr. Mucha.
Dr. Mucha, with ProMedica, can't forget Dr. Mucha.
No, you can't.
So this really is representative of that goal that we have as an organization, to make sure that our community has access to a full continuum of care and as much specialty care as possible in the best ways to provide appropriate health outcomes for them too.
And finding the best partner, you know, and certainly, this is the best partner for cancer services, in my humble opinion, in the tri-state region. And I work with a lot of big health systems, and I will tell you that the work that is being done right now at ProMedica Cancer Center at the hospital, at Hickman Hospital, is remarkable. My physicians and my patients rave about it. And so it's great to link up with a partner who's the best in the industry. So Ann, I want to ask you, a patient hears the news. Maybe they present at the ER and the physician comes in, as my sister's case, and says, you have a mass. A lot goes through people's mind.
It's very scary.
It's scary. And you hear those words, referral and oncologist, and, and it's overwhelming. Take us through the journey of how this all comes to play.
Sure.
From the moment, who's diagnosing typically, to how do they get into the system to become a patient of ours and yours.
So sometimes it is through the ER. Sometimes it is through the primary care. Somebody just doesn't feel well. And then they go through a series of scans and tests, and then they find, oh my gosh, we have this identified. And then they hear the word cancer, and many times patients just stop listening at that point. It's hard to comprehend. And so we always encourage patients to bring someone with them, to write things down, to document their questions. We provide them actually at their first visit with an orientation manual that gives them an overview of all of our services, because we know they're not going to remember all of that when they move on. So
processing that at the same time.
Yeah. So at the point of the diagnosis, there are a number of referrals that will be determined. It can be a surgical referral, it can be a medical oncology referral, and or a radiation oncology referral. Any, all, or a single of those will be determined. The beauty of the connection that I think in our collaboration is that we have a number of cancer conferences / tumor boards where patients'
It was amazing.
actual diagnoses are then discussed and their treatment plan developed with key
By
individuals present. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
It is a medical oncologist, radiation oncologist, and surgeon, as well as a pathologist and radiologist. They review the slides. They review the diagnostic images. They have a robust discussion about what is the best treatment plan for that patient. And in this collaboration, your referring physicians are invited to participate if they so choose. If not, they will be given information on what was discussed and then what is the plan for that patient. And then from there, the referrals begin. Tammy then becomes the link in helping those patients get connected in a very timely manner to the respective specialists, whether that be medical oncologists, radiation oncologists, surgeons, if they need them within ProMedica, because we recognize that there are some cases that may not be done here.
Oh, you can't. I mean, we have to accept that there's specialty care that needs to go beyond Hillsdale. And that's why our partnership is formed.
Exactly. But then our commitment and what you had said earlier as your philosophy ties in beautifully to our philosophy, both across ProMedica as well as ProMedica Cancer Institute. Your health, our mission. And then ProMedica Cancer Institute, exceptional cancer care close to home, which is very much linked and supportive of your exceptional support of your community.
Absolutely. Very methodical process that's involved, detailed, scripted. I think the communication at the beginning is so critical, and I was very appreciative of the packets that are given, because families have to sit down at night and try to process all this. I've been there. I know what it's like. And then you ask the questions, what are next steps? And so having that relationship and having that information from you is very vital. It's very important.
I do want to clarify quickly. We're going to talk about some of how things are going so far, but we mentioned that you come to the hospital and it's a virtual visit with the oncologist. Now, a lot of people hear virtual visit and they're like, I'm not comfortable with that. I don't know how to use that technology. You don't have to know anything, because Tammy is here to help you.
She's a navigator, right?
Right. So if that confused you at all to hear telehealth telehealth, and then also at Hillsdale Hospital, you were here at Hillsdale Hospital with Tammy, with a clinical professional who is setting up that connection, setting up that technology so that you can have that visit with your oncologist.
I'd like for Ann to address this term, nurse navigator. Can you talk a little bit about that and how that plays into treatment plans and just following the patient?
So a navigator is a very, very important role in the world of oncology. It gives that patient a singular link to then connect them to the other services that they may need. That person, in this case, Tammy, is able to coordinate their visits, then explain to them, okay, with this visit, you'll need lab draws. This will be reinforced when they are receiving their infusion therapy at Hickman Hospital. It will also be reinforced in the visits with the provider. And cancer is a journey, and it is a very challenging at times situation to go through. And being able to be with that nurse navigator and having that presence, you don't have to worry about the visit. You just need to have the visit with the provider. You have somebody there that sets up that technology. From there, you walk away recognizing that, okay, I know I have this diagnosis and I know I need to move forward, and this is going to be my next step. But there is such an excellent handoff between Tammy and the nurses over at Charles Virginia Hickman, as well as the radiation team at Hickman Hospital as well, although it's located at Grace Chrisman, that those two handoffs are so significant and important. And they're very positive, because we make sure that there's a good connection of information.
Yeah.
Right.
And then when the treatment infusion is completed, there's a connection back to Tammy so that she knows
Right.
what those next steps need to be so
Right.
that she can be supportive of the
Yeah.
patient.
Right, right. And as a patient, you're not going to be trying to figure out for yourself, how do I get through this whole process? How do I go
Correct.
through this
Yeah.
journey? You
Correct.
are always going to have someone by your side walking you through it.
Yes.
And that's not always been the case. Think about it, 2 decades ago, even a decade ago, when nurse navigators weren't deployed and walking patients through. And we made a lot of headway in this, in
Mhm.
treatment of cancer, as
Mhm.
well as the specialty care that we
Yes.
give to those patients. I do want to talk a little bit about communication with the patient, because that
Sure.
is so important. So, and are you utilizing a portal, for patient portal once they go to your hospital, receive services? We have a patient portal. You have a patient portal.
Sure.
They can access if they have appointments on that patient
Oh,
portal.
absolutely. It's
You wanna
called
talk
My
a-
Chart.
It's called My
Absolutely.
Chart. Talk a little bit
And
about that.
Yep, it is through Epic, which is our electronic medical
Yeah.
record. And this can get set up. It is actually how the virtual visit, telehealth visit can occur
Okay.
with
Mhm.
Tammy at their side. And then as appointments are made, as lab results are
Right.
available, that is all at their fingertips. And
Right.
then they have the ability to email their physician through the
Yeah.
My Chart. Many times, though, cancer patients will prefer to talk to their physician, and they'll work
Sure.
through the nurse navigator or their infusion nurse to make
Mhm.
sure that their questions get
Yeah.
answered.
Right.
But that My Chart is an excellent tool to be able to support the patients on
It
their
is.
journey
It
as
is.
well.
Yeah.
Mhm. And if you use My Chart with Hillsdale for any of your outpatient clinic visits or providers, you don't have to download a second app. You just set up your ProMedica account basically within the My Chart app that you already have. So you can switch back and forth between, your primary care provider in My Chart
Mhm.
and your services that
Yeah.
you get from Hillsdale Hospital, but also then just click back over to ProMedica, which makes it very convenient because
Yes.
I do have
It does.
a couple of those on my Chart app.
Yes.
And
yes.
all of your
Yeah.
appointments are listed there. Appointments with your primary care, with your surgeon if they're part of the team, with your medical oncologist, with your radiation oncologist. It's not limited to just one specialty.
So our time is coming to an end here, and I just want to make some comments if I could, Rachel.
Wait, but we have to ask Ann how it's going so far.
We're going to.
Okay,
But I
okay.
wanted to bring up a comment first, and that is how cancer service, in the treatment of cancer, that we're walking our patients through a journey. And what I want to really stress is we have great clinical care that we're going to be providing the patients. There's 2 other components that are so important, in my opinion, to this journey. Number 1 is family, having a strong support base of family, and bringing them on board, which we encourage as well.
Mhm.
Educate, bring them. You can empower a family member to come with you. I would encourage that, because many times, when there's treatment that occurs, there could be, just periods of time where you're not going to retain some of that information that may be shared with you. The second, so family, number 1, support system. Talk to your family about this. You don't have to hide it. Don't hide cancer. Be open about it to the degree that you're comfortable, but really talk about how family can be part of that journey, and that's important. Second area, for me as a minister, I'll talk about it, is the spiritual component of the journey. So you got the medical component, the clinical, the family, and then the spiritual, because what I want to encourage our patients, our folks who use these services, is that we have a beautiful chapel. We have chaplains that are on call 24/7, that are available. If you're struggling during the journey, and it's beyond the clinical care and what the family can do, there is help on the spiritual side as well, because it is encompassing that whole journey. And I just want to bring that point up. The Hillsdale Hospital, we have a robust, program for chaplaincy, where we have 107 churches, I think, in Hillsdale County. And a lot of those pastors and priests are actually involved in the ministry of our patients here. So if you have a specific religion, we can meet that need as well. So please just know you're not alone. You're going to get the best clinical care in the tri-state area with our relationship and collaboration with ProMedica. And your family, you have to get support base. And then on a chaplaincy ministry religion side, we can help you there as well. Just wanted to bring that point up.
So, Ann, tell us a little bit. In the past few weeks, we've started seeing patients through
Mhm.
this collaboration. So
Yes.
how is it going so far?
I would say, and based on the feedback from the team, it's going extremely
It
well,
is.
better than anticipated.
Yeah.
Not that we expected it not to go well, but when you have that first patient, be very positive about the connection and the experience. And as you have subsequent patients come in and continue to have those raving reviews, I think it is just extremely almost emotional to see this dream come true, this collaboration come true.
Absolutely.
And the patients view it as almost an emotional experience as well, because they don't have to travel as much.
Absolutely.
JJ, in support of what you were saying, it takes a village.
Yeah.
And that village has involved a partnership of a number of leaders between ProMedica and Hillsdale.
Yeah.
And as a part of that partnership, we continue to meet every 2 weeks to discuss how things are going, what's our next step, what do we need related to getting the word out, how do we begin, and how do we continue to take exceptional care of these cancer patients close to home.
Absolutely. It's very exciting. And I think about, from my perspective, like I said, I've received 2 notices already, or responses. One was a text message that really just talked about they were not looking forward to the journey. And, the physical journey of actually getting in a vehicle and having to find a spot. But knowing that journey could start here was very welcomed. And I think we're going to hear and see more of that. And then once they get into the system, they're going to understand why we partner to receive the great care that they provide.
Right. So lastly, and I think either one of you can answer this question, what should our community know about the future of oncology services
Well,
at
Ann started
Hillsdale
that
Hospital?
So I think that the future of oncology is something that continues to evolve.
It does.
There continue to be a number of changes that occur almost on a daily basis. ProMedica is committed to being evidence-based, to continue to follow standards and guidelines. We have a number of accreditations that support our medical and radiation oncology, as well as our physician practice, as well as our breast program. So we continue to be very committed to those initiatives. When you think about where we've come, looking at the clinic-to-clinic visits, looking at the embracing of genetics, looking at potentially having the healing care aspect available to our patients, I think that as the specialty of oncology continues to evolve, as research continues to evolve, I think our relationship will continue to evolve, because we will look at how we can partner, how we can collaborate in the future to make this happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. Same thing. I envision this moving in many, many, many ways, and serving the needs of our patients. And we have to be careful that, I don't want to duplicate services that are being, offered right now at ProMedica, because they're doing a great job. That's not my goal. My goal is to provide access to our patients to receive the great care that's being provided there, and to provide that in an environment here at Hillsdale where our patients can get to and can travel and can start their journey. The other thing to consider is that the testing that we can do here, it's also, we have a PET scan that we can utilize here. And then for us, it's all those ancillary services that we can offer right here, from laboratory to x-ray, PET scan, to some general surgery. Again, there are going to be many things that are outside of our scope that I don't want to get involved with, that we allow the experts to take care of at the Center for Cancer. So I'm excited about what the future holds. It's only going to go up.
I would like to just, as we kind of wrap things up, I want to do a shout out to the team.
Yeah.
To the team that planned it.
Yes.
And to the team that is making it a reality each and every day in taking exceptional cancer care of our patients close to home. We've thrown out the word collaboration. We've thrown out the word partnership. I think the point that you made earlier, JJ, is very, very key, in that this is not any sort of a relationship other than a collaboration to support our patients. We have supported your independence.
Oh, absolutely.
We recognize the need for you to be interdependent.
We always have.
And our collaboration continues to be very strong and supported at the highest levels of ProMedica. And I appreciate their support. I appreciate your support. And I ultimately appreciate the team support that helped make this happen and continues to make it happen on a a daily basis.
And I've always appreciated that out of you, Ann. You know, big systems come in, they're always trying to buy Hillsdale. We're not for sale, by the way. But Ann, it's never been from an approach of, you know, oh, we're going to own Hillsdale, or you have to sign on to our system in order to get these services. Never been that. It's always been, how do we collaborate to get these services to you? They've never been high pressure, and we've never had that type of relationship, which is encouraging and something that I don't experience with all systems. And I'll leave it there.
Please do.
Okay.
So speaking of the team, if you are interested in more information and want to reach out about oncology services at Hillsdale, the phone number for that is going to be up on the screen and in the comments, I'm sure, here soon. But that is 517-577-0846. So anything else you need to know, or if you are a patient that is interested in getting those services here, feel free to call that number. And before we wrap up, let's take some questions from those of you watching live. I believe we have at least one question, right, Kirsten?
Yes, the first question is, will patients be able to get chemotherapy in Hillsdale Hospital?
I can take that question. So chemotherapy is a very specialized medical medicine treatment. It requires a very specific pharmacy. It requires specific compounding that needs to occur. It also requires very specific training for the nurses to administer chemotherapy. We have not discussed that that is an option that will continue, and the exceptional cancer care close to home is really focused on the supportive therapies that are being given to the patients, those hydration infusions when they need to be built up, blood transfusions. There could be some electrolyte infusions that need to occur, the diagnostic testing, some of the surgical procedures. But for the actual chemotherapy that needs to be administered, that will be given at a center that specializes in chemotherapy administration.
Which is absolutely appropriate and something that we feel is important for our patients.
Right.
It's a great question.
That is a wonderful question. But all the others that Ann has talked about with, you know, the IV therapies and those things that we can do, we're doing now in our infusion center, and we'll continue to run the infusion center as we have been, which is doing remarkably well.
Right. All right. We have at least one other question, I know, right? Maybe more than that, but we'll see.
Yes, the other question is, who will the doctors be that patients can see?
Sure.
I have the list right here.
Sure.
You need it for reference.
Thank you.
We got it.
Actually, so in medical oncology, which is hematology and oncology together, so it specializes in the blood cancers as well as solid tumors, it would be Dr. Fang Zhang and Dr. Kuofeng Li, who is working primarily out of the Charles Virginia Hickman Hospital. We also have nurse practitioners that support that. Currently, we have Jennifer Smith, and the team really focuses on that coordination of care, working very closely with Tammy and the nurses and team members that are at Charles Virginia Hickman Hospital. For genetics, we have Kelly Morris. She is our manager as well as master's prepared, certified, and licensed genetic counselor. She has a team that works with her that will also be supporting these patients. And then from radiation oncology, we have Dr. Ryan Jin. He is our radiation oncologist that functions out of Bixby / Charles Virginia Hickman at the Grace Chrisman building.
Great.
So, wow, a lot of resources.
Yes.
And that
Takes
is
a village.
Yeah, a lot of resources, really is. Any other questions that we have?
All right. So to wrap up today, are you okay if I close?
I want you to
Kirsten
close.
put in the script for me to
I
close,
love it.
so
I like
want
it.
you to feel like I'm taking
No,
over
please
your job.
do. Please do.
All right. Well, so to close today, we do want to thank you, our community, for your continued support. We want to thank Ann for being here,
Yes.
and for her entire team and our entire team that worked on this project.
Yeah.
To nominate a hospital staff member for our quarterly patient care award based on the experience you or your family member had, visit hillsdalehospital.com/award. We'll have all these links in the comments.
Tammy, exactly.
Yes,
yes.
right? To support,
She's received a few already.
Yes.
So,
Oh, that's
but
awesome.
still, do it again.
but this particular award, please nominate Tammy.
Exactly.
To support our capital fundraising campaign, visit hillsdalehospital.com/campaign. To learn about volunteering opportunities here at Hillsdale Hospital, visit hillsdalehospital.com/volunteer. And if you want to join an award-winning workplace in the healthcare industry, check out hillsdalehospital.com/careers. Catch us on WCSR on Fridays for more discussions like this. And don't forget to check out our national podcast, Rural Health Rising, at ruralhealthrising.com, or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You want to do the closing?
Well, I want to
close?
tell you right now, Rachel, you're doing this from now on. Go ahead. Take it
All
home.
right.
Take it
Well,
home.
we will see you here again, hopefully next Wednesday. As you all know, our schedule changes sometimes.
It does a little bit.
But until then, stay safe, stay healthy, stay Hillsdale strong, and choose Hillsdale.